Do you remember when you were a 1-foot tall version of yourself and you thought it would be really cool to have a pet fish or like a puppy or a cat? So you asked your living spawn point if you could get one and they said, "Oh no, I'm not sure you could handle the responsibility, little one. That's a big commitment." And then you pester them for months until you finally get a 1-gallon bowl of still water from a ring toss at the fair that has a goldfish in it who's primed to suffocate in a couple weeks. And then when it finally swims to the toilet, your ancestors get mad at you for even asking in the first place when nobody had any idea how to actually take care of it.
Has that ever happened to you?
Turns out taking care of living creatures is a challenge, and most things that end up in your house inevitably need a lot of attention. All of that is just to say that I regret killing all those Neogi and adopting this gray render that I ride around on now. His name is Cookie Monster. I mainly regret this friendship because it keeps killing everybody that I meet, and it slobbers all over me when I try to sleep, and its farts are terrible. Let me tell you what I've learned. Gray renders, one of the most lazily named creatures I've ever come across, are 12-foot tall, muscle-dense, flesh-ripping monstrosities that require lots of hugs and kisses before their bedtime stories. Kinda like German shepherds, a gray render will seek out and form a strong bond with whatever creature mistakenly decides to accept them. This is partially a side effect of their reproductive cycle. They give birth by asexually budding like SpongeBob, and when a little why does SpongeBob have 2 parents? Okay, sorry. When the little wart babies fall off, their parents are just like, "Ugh," and then they walk away. But all these little sweethearts need to be taken care of. So they wander off, looking for an intelligent creature, and when they find one, they do a little song and a dance. If you happen to like their awkward screaming and digging, they almost magically bond with you. From that point on, they'll pretty much do anything that you want. Like if I tell mine to go raid a goblin camp, it will kill everyone there. By the way, they're challenge rating 12. Those goblins wouldn't be able to do anything. The rampaging of a giant chaos puppy is so fierce that even allies aren't safe. Like if it takes damage, it'll smack anyone within range, except for me. They're one of the only monsters in the whole book that have a table for personality quirks. It's pretty cute, but also horrifying. They might hate all other rideable creatures, freak out when it's dark outside, bury your stuff in huge holes, literally scream when they see anyone touch you, have, and I'm quoting, terrific and eye-watering flatulence, or they might really like cuddling. I'm almost afraid to cuddle Cookie Monster, it might squeeze a fart out. Also, all of these do sound like the writer describing their dog. Actually, are these things just like desaturated Cliffords? Clifford the Big Gray? They're like smaller but more devastating versions of that fucking thing. He's even got bond mechanics with what's-her-face. Oh hey, there's a power scaling page for him. I think I kind of fuck with Cliffords in D&D pretty hard. That's a fun concept. The biggest problem with them, which I mentioned a minute ago, is that they are super possessive and don't give a hot toot about any other living creature than you. If it seems like their master likes anyone more than the muscle puppy itself, they move in quickly to maul that person with the combined strength of an elephant and 2 bears. Their main tactics are just to chew at their targets until they get knocked over, and then stomp and slash until the human becomes some ribbons. So if you have a render, you probably don't have friends, which is why they work really well for solo villains. Even if the villain is super weak, they'll still have a literal puppy guard with almost 200 hit points that will happily terrorize a town at its master's beck and call. Having some scrawny nobody discover a gray render could turn them into a villain, kinda like that dude in Scavenger's Reign, where their combined weakness turned into a toxic strength. It'd also be fun, like with Clifford, to have one imprint on a young girl who gives it an apple while it's nice and small, and then when it grows to its full size, it crushes her house with her parents inside while chasing a butterfly. Oh boy, ain't that fun. The book suggests that Neogi made them as a race of powerful servants, which makes sense because Neogi embody feeble hatred. And when you have a big, chaotic, and morally neutral guard dog, you can act on that hatred pretty freely, at the expense of some friends, which is also fitting for the friendless Neogi. Ironically, this is also why they often get sick of their renders and abandon them at random places across the realms. For such a hideously selfish creature to have such an emotionally demanding pet, the tension and frustration they both have to have is part of the relationship. I totally understand cat people who don't want to deal with the constant tantrums, barking, walks, and damage that dogs bring. Imagine having a creature that literally rips the bathroom door to shreds when it can't find you, wakes you up every morning with just the biggest butthole, and could you even imagine how much poop you'd have to deal with? I completely understand why the Neogi at least made them hairless. Since they are neutral and very, very stupid, I imagine some humble druid or monk could find a way to understand and eventually adjust their behavior. Or a semi-strong wizard could keep their gray renders in line using enchantments on those walnut-sized brains. The spell Gios could potentially remove all of their destructive nature, functioning a lot like a magical shock collar. I'd never do that to Cookie Monster though. I'll probably just do the ethical thing and put him up for adoption. He probably won't bond with anyone new unless he sees me actually die. But then he'd just sit there for like a month and cry. I don't think there is an ethical solution to this chaotic beast of burden. I'm gonna go look for a giant or a dragon and sick Cookie on them. That'll at least send the poor soul to Valhalla so I can visit. Oh, you know what? I still have a genie bottle. I could probably stuff him in there too. While I figure that out, I did want to mention my girlfriend's sticker and bauble Kickstarter. There's a lot of cute stuff on there. We probably set the goal way too high, so there's a chance that it could flop. And if it does, I'll still do my best to scramble together some of my own savings so that we can have affordable prices on her website. I'm proud of her and I want her to keep going. It's cute stuff. I also have a funny story about this week's video. I struggled with a topic for a while, and at first I landed on Elder Elementals, which they're big, world-ending, living storms. And I remembered that thing that just happened, so I didn't do that. I might do it later. Goodbye.